Hey guys, should we wait for Mr. Hamza or we should punish him now?
Yeah, I think we'll start. It's live now. So yeah, hello everyone. Well, thank you very much for coming to accepting our invitation and coming for our amazing IG MENA Google Hangouts. I'm really thrilled and excited to host such a great internet governance expert today. My name is Hamza bin Mahadaz. I'm the policy analyst lead of HEVOS Foundation on the internet governance and the MENA region program. And today we will speak about a really interesting topic on how to build and organize online movement for policy advocacy in the MENA region. And before giving you the floor, I will try to share with you 2 or 3 logistical instructions that will help us in the discussion. Try to mute your voice while the other speaker is giving his or her perspective, and try to shut down any connected devices that you have to guarantee a smooth broadband connection. So we in this hangout today will look at how state governance affected human rights policies in your own countries, and from your experience, from your knowledge on internet governance, how we can build strong online movements, and at the end we will see what are the strategies of that online grassroots movements organization that can impact a real on-the-ground multi-stakeholder discussion on human rights and internet governance policies. I will give the floor for each one of you to present him or herself, and I will begin by the lady who is with us. We'll begin by Wafa bin Hassan. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, hi everybody. So thank you for hosting this, Hamza, and for the IG MENA. I think this is a very interesting topic that a lot of us has come up across very frequently. And for now, I think I'll start by talking, I think, more about the ecosystem that we find ourselves in the Middle East and North African region with regards to internet governance, as well as in the region. And as you all know, the ecosystem is still quite young, and we have had only the first regional IGF a few years ago. And so the space to be watched, I think we lost somebody just now, but it's a space that we need to keep our eye on and keep watching what happens, because it's still very much in an embryonic stage, and it's very young and still developing. And so when it comes to civil society engagement in these very stages of things, it's important that we not only communicate with one another, but also fronts. I think that's something that I would like to talk about later on as well. It's something where one civil society or free expression, another can work on digital economy, the other can work on interconnectivity. And with all of these together, efforts simultaneously with such a diversity of peace, I think we could be the most effective. There's always strength in diversity in numbers. We should be doing more in the middle.
Thank you very much, Wafa, for the introduction. I would go to Mohamed Omran as well, and to give him the floor to introduce himself, and after that to Mohamed and Riyadh. So the floor is yours, gentlemen, before going back to Wafa and ask her the first question of the hangout. So Mohamed Omran, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Hamza. Thank you, guys. My name is Mohamed Omran. I'm the Executive Director of Democratic Transition and the Human Rights Support Center, DAM. I working in the MENA region since 6 years, maybe, or 7 years. I started from 2008 or 2009. I started to work regionally. In 2010, I was the coordinator of the Friedrich Naumann Foundation, the regional coordinator of the Friedrich Naumann Foundation in the regional office in Cairo. Then I swift to the Tunisia office to be responsible about Libya program. And after that, by 2 years, I started to establish my personal initiative, which is DAM Center. Our center actually is inspired from the Tunisian experience after the transition or after the Arab Spring, which is DAM Center tried to play the role to be as a gate between the politician and the human rights activists. And we're trying to disseminate the human rights culture among political parties and decision makers.
Very much, Muhammad Amin. We are very pleased to have you here with us. Should we go to Muhammad, who joined us from Iraq?
Hello, my name is Mohamed Munjid. I am working with the Iraqi Network for Social Media, and also I work with Breakthrough Media Limited as a digital content strategist. So we are. This is my work side, and as well I do work with my community as an internet advocate. So my interest it's about everything about the digital world, and I do care about our rights as humans to have the internet 24/7 with the good access and affordable. So this is a summary, and I'm really glad to being with you here today at this amazing and exciting hangout. Thank you, Hamza.
Yeah, thank you, Mohammed. We are always excited to have such experts. Should we go to Riyadh al-Balushi, who joined us who is based now in UK, but who is from Oman?
Thank you, Hamza. Hi, everyone. My name is Riyadh al-Balushi. I'm currently doing a PhD at the School of Oriental and African Studies in the area of intellectual property law and human rights. But I'm actually a lawyer, and I've worked for the government of Oman for about 10 years in the area of international law. I'm also a columnist for a Omani newspaper, and I write about internet law issues such as domain names, data protection, open data, and a variety of other aspects relating to internet policy. Yeah, that's about it. I'm looking forward to get the questions from Hamza. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very, very much all for telling us about yourselves. And I will go back to Ms. Wafa and then ask her from her own experience and expertise. So, what do you think of the state governance now in Tunisia after the Arab Revolution, and how that really impacted the human rights agenda on internet governance?
Yeah, so I will also go ahead and introduce myself because I forgot to do. So my name is Wafa bin Hassan, and I am also a lawyer, and I'm currently working with an organization called to promote and expand digital all over the world. I'm a Palestinian, and I am based in Tunis. I've been in this space for the past 6 years or so, most ships, and getting a bulk of my research of internet policy, legislation that touches in the digital space. So back to your question, Hamza, how has the governmental changes impacted human rights in the country? Tunis has been going through a lot of various transitions over and over again. There isn't just from to democracy. We just had solved a few months ago, and it impacts things on a very practical level. The administrations within the change, the individuals you want, their I don't have the same people working, people that were in charge of one said anymore, and the handover did not occur properly, et cetera, et cetera. So you have all of these kinds of issues that come along, right? Any kind of change, transition. So that's something that we're seeing very frequently now, and it's difficult to keep track of who's following what within the government. A challenge for civil society advocates, as well as lawyers and other policymakers or influencers, that keeps coming up. That's, I think, I thought now, but it's very easily remedied once you establish your work practices, appropriate contacts, people that don't change, people that need, people that know where that law came from. They know who drafted it, amended it. It's important to keep them alive, because if you're especially working, if you're working in policy, it's important to know who those people are. Target your lobbying and target your advocacy efforts appropriately.
Yeah, thank you very much, Wafa, for your perspective. I will try to contrast that with the perspective of Muhammad Amin, who is from Egypt and who is based on Tunis, and he was working in the Down Center. And ask you, what do you think of the state governance of Egypt before and after the revolution, and how that state governance impacted the human rights enshrined in internet governance, or vice versa? So give us a little bit about the state behavior and how that state behavior impacted the internet governance and human rights mandate in Egypt. Muhammad, do you hear me? So yeah, until Muhammad comes back, and I would ask the question to Muhammad.
Okay. Hello.
Yes.
Yes, I'm here. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry for that.
Okay.
I will try to give you a comparative perspective for the three countries who witnessed the Arab Spring, which are Tunisia, Egypt, and Libya. If we try to look to the transition that occurred the three countries, we will find before the Arab Spring, there is the three of them are similar to deal with the human rights file during that phase. They are all use the method to deal with the human rights issues in different methods to ban and restriction the work of the political parties or the human rights organization, and which led to revolution in the three countries. But we will find that Egypt and Tunisia dealt with human rights issues in carefully way, and with a political mechanism that based in showing two different faces or two different sides. They dealing with the international community by they showing themselves that respect and believe in the human rights principles, and they just saw that the security violation or harassment it is like a secondary behavior, and it is not a systematic violation in the country. And on the same time, they used to send their supporters even to the conferences and activities of the opposition and the human rights activists to make something like fabricate crisis or fabricate fights and quarrels. And which means that was double face. It was the face who respect the human rights in front of the international community, and the face who is not respect the human rights for his local community. In the meanwhile, we will find Libya is completely different in dealing with the international community. And from my point of view, or from my opinion, that's regarding the economical situation. While Egypt and Tunisia are waiting and depending on the foreigner aids and from the European Union and the USA and the rest of advanced world, Libya was a country with a country of oil, which does not need any economical aid. So they are not care to decorate their regime in front of the international community regarding the human rights files. Which mean also we will find Egypt and Tunisia try to benefit from the economical input of the internet, but in the meantime they didn't want to respect the principles of human rights for the internet users. While Libya didn't care if it was they need to make economical input from the internet business or not. While after the revolution, we will see the three countries witnesses different paths. In Tunisia, due to the existing political wills that is serious in dealing with positively and effectively with human rights issue. In my opinion, that is due to the decent number of current political actors that are human rights, that are using human rights based approach and worked a lot in the various human rights fields on the local, regional and international level. Ever since founding the Higher Committee to Protect the Revolution objective, which was include many of human rights activists in Tunisia. And those activists, some of them are coming from political
background,
and then they return it to their political background and try to work politically to govern the country, which make a good climate to protect the human rights, or at least the principle of human rights in the country. After the and in Egypt, we will see that the intern of the military regime and the decrease of the civil political movement in Egypt show that show in Egypt there is a constitution that contains very good
legislations
and articles, very good and developed articles, but we have very bad laws that show that the military regime are even not respect the constitution that he participated on
drafting the laws.
Yeah, on drafting the laws. In Libya, the civil war make the file of the human rights be so much bigger than before the Arab Spring. And we now have a high level of human rights violation in Libya. And also we can say in Libya now, the infrastructure of the internet is so bad, and most of the people are depending on the satellite and some tools that give them very bad signal to connect to the internet in the country.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot. Thank you for your broad and comparative perspective. It was really great. I will try to contrast that with Mohamed's perspective on the state governance, on human rights and governance in Iraq. So tell us more about the local behavior of the government, and how did that impact or not the mandate of human rights and internet governance.
Yes, actually, the situation in Iraq between the government and the society and the internet, this triangle, it's a bit different than any country in the MENA region, because there is a point that it's in the center of this triangle. It's called ISIS. So now, in this couple of years, 3 years till now, after starting the war with the ISIS, now the government start dealing in a different way with the internet and the society. Before that, we hadn't any issue in terms of isolation, censorship, any human rights violation. Everyone can use the internet so easily. Now, and after 2011 exactly, when the first draft of cybercrime law drafted in the Iraqi parliament, so things start to change. But the rise of all of this happened after ISIS get into Iraq, and the military operations get to the high level. So after that, the internet start shut down. There's many of the major websites start to be blocked, and people now get to know more about internet, about how they can avoid the blocking for the website, avoid how they can treat the critical subjects on internet, and how they can communicate between each other securely. But the issue beyond all of this, it's on the side of the government. The issue with the government, they are not hearing from the community about what they need of the people, of the society. So this how we can know, or how we can tell that, it's because till now there's no bylaws, there's no codes, there's no really governance policy for the internet governance policy in Iraq. And all what we have now, it's in really violated an internet law. It's internet crimes law in Iraq, and it's till now it's not passed from the parliament because of the huge issues and problems in it. I talked about it in details at the summit. So the problem, it's not we don't, till now people don't know what is the limitations and what is the borders, and how they can work and how they can use the internet for their rights. They don't believe till now that the people in Iraq, and I'm telling this, and I am really regret for this, but people in Iraq, they don't really understand that the internet, it's their right. So they don't give it that much matter or interest or care when we talk about it. So when we start lobbying or advocating about how much internet it's important, the government should not switch off the internet and shut down it. And no one have the right to block any website in any country, because this is our right to access these websites. It's on the internet. The internet should be accessible anytime, anywhere. People don't understand. And why is that? Because they have already big issues. There are cities taken by terrorist groups. There's people dies. There's women raped. There's children. They cannot go to the schools, and people delayed from their education now 3 years. So all of these,
So you're saying that people are not they don't really see the internet as their fundamental rights because of an education or an awareness, and because of fear as well from.
Absolutely, yes. So when they don't when they go to the comparison, they don't see the internet as heavy as and big issue as what we have. So when we are talking about the internet and lobbying and start advocating about how important that we need this information about this bylaws about the internet in Iraq, people say, you don't want this, we don't need this, please talk about something important for the society. Guys, people, this internet, it is important for the community and society. So and as well as when the government see the people, they are not interested about laws and internet governance, and they have already their own problems and issues, they delay it and they don't give it that much care, and they don't do any movement, any move to bring or to build an internet governance policy. So this is the issue in Iraq, and as well when we have this general issue, and when we go up and we look in a big picture in Iraq, even when we talk with the international community to please, you have projects in Iraq, put this subject into your agenda, please. You are spending a lot of money in Iraq doing your projects and your awareness projects and campaigns. Put this subject. They apologize because there is big problems for them, and they have their own objectives that they want to deliver and they want to achieve. So internet, it's I'm sorry, but it's not that much. It is not the major subject or the important subject for people in Iraq.
Yeah, Mohammed, this is not the only issue in the issue only in Iraq, but in many other countries in the MENA region. So so we feel we share the burden with you. So I will go to Mr. Riyadh and maybe delve in a little bit about on the strategies when it comes to how we can advocate, or how we can talk and discuss with our government officials to try to maybe talk a little bit about the internet governance and the human rights mandate. If you think about the strategies, how can we make our voice heard when it comes to our discussion and dialogue with the government officials?
Thank you, Hamza. I think maybe I should talk just a little bit about the context in Oman too, because it's very different from the other countries in the region. And I guess when it comes to governance and even advocacy, even the region as a whole is very different from, say, the US or the UK. And within the region itself, it can be totally different. So things that happen, say, in Tunisia or Egypt or Iraq are totally not the same issues that we face in Oman. So I would say in Oman, people think of the internet as something very fundamental. Even though we don't have the same challenges when it comes to, like, say, human rights and even like terrorism and personal safety, but we do have our challenges. But the concerns are usually presented on economic terms. So when we think of the right to use the internet, people argue that we should have it cheaper and that it should be more accessible. And we recently had like a major, a national campaign on Twitter, where members of the public decided to boycott all telecoms for specific hours of the day, which led to the parliament taking action and the Minister of Telecommunication, like summoning the telecom companies to ask them to reconsider their like pricing policies. So I feel in Oman, people really think the internet is a right, but they see it as a consumer right, like from an economic perspective, not really from a human rights perspective. And some of when the government intervenes, we see some of the interventions being economic more than, say, like political or like cultural. So Skype is blocked in Oman, but it's not blocked for a political reason. We believe that it's blocked because the telecom companies feel that that if Skype is allowed, it will cut their it will affect their profits, and like that's the argument. So we think it's an economic issue, and when the people demand for it, they demand for it because they want cheap phone calls, not because they want, like, they feel they have a human right to communicate in private. So we have similar issues, but they're discussed and decided on for different reasons. I feel when it comes to actually advocating and like having a dialogue with the policymakers, it's also like very context sensitive. But I think the point is always like to figure out the best ways to have a dialogue with them. And I think it's important to look for opportunities where there is room for dialogue. So in Oman, we do have, even though Oman is an absolute monarchy, we do have some channels to communicate directly with the policymakers. So for example, our Telecom Regulation Authority, they're actually quite good. And when they develop a policy, they, like in many instances, they would put it online and anyone can respond. And in certain cases, they would publish the responses online and their comments on it too. So I think that's a very good, I think that's a trend that more institutions in Oman and in the region should adopt, where you seek consultation. You don't have to take their opinion if you don't like it, but at least there's a channel of communication. And I think advocates should also look for these opportunities, because I'm sure my country can't be the leader at doing this, and I'm sure there are other countries that do something similar, but the government is not very good at marketing what they do or marketing the opportunities that members of the public can use. We have another authority called the Information Technology Authority that does open meetings. So from time to next week, they're going to have an open meeting where members of the public can come and discuss the obstacles that face startups, like mobile application startups. And they previously had an open meeting for discussing data protection law. So I think this should be something that governments should do more often, and it should be something that advocates should utilize, because at times we tend to speak in our own circles and not really engage with the government in the platforms they provide. So yeah, that's for me. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic perspective. I will try. Yeah, it's really interesting to hear the case of Oman. I will try to contrast that with Ms. Wafa bin Hassin, and who is an experienced lady when it comes to policy analysis, who developed a statement on the new ID electronic card, and that's something. But the question is that what are the strategies that you can think of when it comes to, for example, taking that statement concerning the ID electronic card in Tunisia and its repercussion on the data protection to government officials, to public at the governance structure level, to advocate for a bill or for any human rights issue in Tunisia? Can you tell us a little bit about your own strategies or the strategy of Access Now?
Yeah, so actually first, before I delve into that answer, I wanted to kind of follow up on some of the things that my esteemed colleagues have spoken about. First of all, it's really, really interesting how the messaging differs not only, as Riyadh mentioned, from country to country in the world, but also this region as opposed to the rest of the world, but also in terms of country to country in the so-called Middle East, North Africa region. You can see this, in order to get to your goal properly, you need to shift your messaging appropriately. And in the GCC countries, economic arguments are the biggest factor to weigh in terms of crafting a campaign or lobbying, et cetera, et cetera. And also, I did also want to go back to my colleague Muhammad about Iraq and shutdowns. You know, and again, you see a very, very different situation from Iraq to Oman to Tunis. It's quite fascinating, actually. But the issue about, you know, shutdowns. So whereas in Tunis, we haven't had a shutdown yet, and censorship pretty much doesn't exist anymore. We have some other issues. And our story in Tunis is that we just emerged from a totalitarian police state. And that police state did actually legislate many laws and and established many different institutes. But the issue is that they were very, in Arabic we say Suriya, which means they make an institute that's an institution that's supposed to protect privacy of citizens or supposed to fight for the human rights of citizens, but it's actually being instrumentalized. It was being instrumentalized by the regime to attain different purposes. And now our challenge is to actually look at the laws that establish those institutes, right? Like such as the Independent Institute for the Protection of Personal Data. It was created decades ago. And in fact, the law creating the institute, the authority actually is very strong. But if you actually take a very close look at the law that established it, you can see how much it was instrumentalized. And I'll give you all a small example. When the authority was instituted, the law, usually when a data protection authority, a DPA, is created, usually it means that ministries in the government must pass through the DPA in order to get approval that their proposed legislation does not violate the privacy of citizens, for example. But when you actually pore over the law that created the DPA in Tunisia, it doesn't say that the government ministries have to go to the DPA to ask them for approval in their consultations. It says that the DPA may give its opinion about different laws, which is a very big difference legally speaking. It basically places the burden on the Data Protection Authority to go out and seek different laws and see, oh, well, let's see, is the Ministry of Interior doing something? Is the Ministry of Health doing something that infringes on people's privacy? Which placing that burden on the DPA is just not okay. Like that's not how good governance should work. So that's our story in Tunis. It's going back and revising all of these laws that were supposed to be protective, and they're not, you know, and they're just done by the former regime to say, look, we're protecting people's human rights, we're doing a good job on the international stage, and look, we even have a data protection authority, when we know that the DPA is not doing anything. So that's a very, very big challenge for us. It's kind of starting all these normal processes for human rights, of course, one of which is privacy and free expression, et cetera, and looking into them and reforming them. Now, going back to the issue of, and I don't want to take up too much time here, but going back to the issue of...
No, but no, please be free with that. We want to hear your perspective.
Of course, thank you. The issue of the ID card, so that actually doesn't really have much to do with internet at all. It's specifically data protection, and it doesn't quite relate to internet governance or internet policy. But this ties right into the rights of citizens in terms of their privacy rights, which is constitutionalized in Tunisia. It's part of the Tunisian constitution that there shall be no unnecessary infringement on citizens' privacy. The issue, and just a quick parenthesis, the issue is that the constitution guarantees so many rights in Tunis, but the laws do not follow that. And that's why the Constitutional Court was created, to look into these laws that violate the Constitution and change them accordingly. But as of right now, the Constitutional Court has still not been effectuated. It has not been activated to actually work yet. And so that's something that we're waiting on you know, we're waiting for that to start because there are so many laws that need to be reformed. But until then, we actually have to start doing this work ourselves. And this is a big problem, because that means not only past laws that have been passed in the past, like during Ben Ali and during everybody else, that doesn't mean that, it doesn't only mean that we have to revise those laws, but it also means that we as civil society actors have to act as the gatekeeper for proposed legislation in the future, that it does not violate the Constitution. So we're basically doing the job of the Constitutional Court, which is a lot.
That's
like it's a lot, and you're looking at past laws, future laws, proposed legislation, et cetera, and that's kind of what we're doing with the new ID card. And just as a little bit of background for my colleagues, the proposed ID in Tunis, it's currently a proposed legislation that's in the Assembly of the Representatives of the People, the ARP, is looking to supply or equip all of the ID cards in Tunisia with a little chip that has an encrypted part where the citizen doesn't know what it has, what information it has about them, and they also don't have access to that information. So this is just one of the projects that the government has been carrying out. So our role as civil society is really hard right now, and I think the more diversity of voices we can get to work on these various issues, the better, obviously. So I'm done talking now.
Yeah, thank you very much for the perspective of the concrete example of the ID card and the internet governance climate as well. So we'll try to go to contrast that with Mohamed Amin from the DAM Center and ask you the same question about the strategy that you can think of to enshrine, if I can say, the internet governance mandate or values into human rights.
Okay. Well, Hamza, I'm glad I was granted the opportunity to answer this question, because I want to clarify that there is no model that can be literally applied from one country to the other or to another, but at best it can inspire. What I mean, for example, what is happening in the democratic transition path and its positive influence on human rights in Tunisia can inspire Egyptians and Libyans. But at the same time, we cannot literally apply it in another country or community, because there is different properties between the communities and each others. Hence comes the importance of using participatory democracy and providing participatory mechanisms like community dialogue, or like what the method that been used in Tunisia, which is the national dialogue as example, which lead Tunisia to go out from the big crisis and lead Tunisia also to show the world what happened from 3 days or for 4 days about the hearing session of the transitional justice victims. And to create positive and national strategies toward sustainable development in all fields, and its center, or its heart, will be the human rights principles. So to finalize my intervention, there is nothing that we can do without participatory mechanism and participatory and democratic participatory. That's it.
Great, fantastic, Mr. Amran. And I will go to Mohamed, who has a little bit of experience in terms of online organizing and working with the Iraqi social media, different platforms, and how do you think are the best strategies when it comes to advocating for human rights in the internet governance mandate in Iraq?
Actually, in Iraq, as I told you before, that the base culture of human rights, that it's the internet it's a main term of human rights, that both are the same thing. It's not available here in Iraq. So they don't think that internet it's a human rights thing. So the first step to build this strategy about how we can advocate for human rights, that they have to know, the people, they have to know how they can use the internet, defending themselves, defending their rights, defending what's happening here in Iraq. So now most of people in Iraq, they are, for example, they are using YouTube for songs, just to listen for songs. It's just like an iPod. So, but they don't know what's the other usage for YouTube, for example. Same as for Facebook, for blogs, they don't know even about they can do blogging, and they can express their thoughts and their points of views or their perspective, and they can spread it in the internet. So they can share it with the other people in Iraq and in the region. And they can, as well as when it comes to the internet, when we want to advocate for human rights, it should be a two-way communication channel. People, they need to understand how they can use the internet for their rights, as well as the government also, they need to understand how they can use the internet to the sake of the good for the people, for the society. So also, why as a specialist in the internet strategy here in Iraq, my methodology or my how I am thinking, why the government shut down the internet in 1 year, only in the past year, from July 2015 till June 2016, there's 22 times the government shut down the internet in Iraq. Okay, why? Because they don't. It's not because they want to prevent people to access the internet, but they don't know how to use the internet to secure or to provide the right services or the right way to serve the people. The problem here in Iraq that till now we don't have the proper infrastructure for internet. We don't have a college that they teach the internet policy, the internet rights. We don't have these terms in our education, not in the high schools, not in the college, in the universities. So they don't know, and we have the human rights literature in universities, but they don't teach the internet human rights as the internet as a human rights. So people don't know about that. They don't know how to use the internet as a human rights, and as well as the government, they don't know. Because if the two sides, they know it, then we will see it in their behaviors, in their attitudes, in the everyday life. For example, and also another insight that telling us that government, they don't know how the internet, how can use the internet for the sake good for the people, that they hesitate to talk about it. They hesitate to talk about the internet, the policy. They hesitate to talk about the terms and the articles in the internet cyber crime law, the draft one, and how they hesitate to talk about how they now currently manage the internet in Iraq, and how they organize the relationship between the government, that they own the internet, and how they are providing it to the ISPs, and how the ISPs providing it to the people. No one in the whole of Iraq can tell this in a clear way, because everyone hesitates to talk about it, because they don't know the effectiveness of what they may say. So all of these things that make this strategy of the build an IG policy and human rights, an internet as a human right in Iraq, it's to talk about it as not as a term of a human right, but as a way to express human rights.
Yes. perspective, Mohamed. And we have a question from Nuha Othman from Tunisia, and I will share this question between Riyadh and Wafa. So she's saying how to increase the participation of a net citizen in the internet governance in the MENA region, despite the economic and political constraints, and how to improve the quality and the effectiveness of that participation. So if we can ask Riyadh to give us his thoughts on this question.
So yeah, thanks to Nuha for asking the question. I think a good way to increase the participation of members of the public is first to go down to their level, like, because at times we act, like ivory towers, and we don't really engage with the people on the ground. And so for example, I try to advocate for more balanced intellectual property laws, and I try to work with students in the universities. So we use the IP Day to do like a university event, and then we would communicate the way the public communicates. So if I know members of the public read newspapers more, we would do a newspaper article to explain what the issues are and the weaknesses of the law and how it should be amended or like improved. And I think how to improve the impact or like the effectiveness of this participation, I would recommend that people use a language that is understood by those like involved in the policymaking process. So I like Wafa raises point. So for example, how in the GCC, economic arguments is what works. So for example, if I'm going to consider open data has like transparency implications, has government efficiency implications, but it also has economic empowerment implications, and how, say, businesses can use government data to generate income and attract investment. So if I'm going to speak to the Ministry of Commerce, I would use the economic empowerment arguments. But if I'm going to speak with the Ministry of Justice, I would use the corruption arguments. So you use, like, I recommend that people use a language.
It's like you use the right message for different audiences, right?
Yeah, so I think many internet-related issues they have like many different arguments to achieve the same objective. And you just have to be careful to use the one most appealing, and that's going to be understood by the recipient.
Fantastic perspective. So I will try to ask the same question to Wafa from your civil society hat and policy analyst hat. How do you think we can increase net citizen participation on the internet and make that participation more effective when it comes to the policy process?
Yeah, so I echo what Riyadh said exactly in terms of diversifying and changing the angles of your approach depending on your audience and your target. But I also think that to be more accurate in responding to the question in terms of internet governance in the MENA region, I think it's important to participate in international stages as well, even as an individual, even as an organization, whatever it is. There's always remote participation. I've done it many, many times. And remote participation in meetings, international meetings, is not to be ignored. I think a lot of us kind of brush it to the side because we think it's not as effective as in-person communication. But in fact, people take note when you're present in these meetings and you ask the right questions, such as Nuha, who awesomely asked this question. So it's important to participate online and remote participation. Yeah, just make your voice heard and apply to different fellowships, apply to different programs, keep things on your radar, and make sure you're following what's happening in your country domestically, and which actors to talk to and how to direct your message to them appropriately.
Yeah, thank you for your perspective. And now I will ask Muhammad Amran as well, and I think that he has something to say here. So the question said that in the advent of social technology, can the web offer and facilitate and nurture and engage online communities, relationships, and networks of trust to bring people with common interests or profiles together to engage with government officials? So from from your experience in DAM Center, how do you establish policy relationships in your center, and how do you see that policy relationships with different stakeholders can help us engage with government officials at the national context in Tunisia?
Okay. First of all, that we must work on identified grassroots actors along with experts and well-known figures or profile on different fields as a political, as a human rights activist, politician, economical, culture, and also to identify this kind of different fields of networks for these parties that give the real picture of the level of really applying laws and policies. Because when you are just working with experts without looking forward to the grassroots and their opinions and the reality of the communities from them, you will be so far in making policies or in making strategies to deal to fulfill the gaps that found. And then we must work to with those groups, beside introducing to them the concept of internet governance until in right perspective in their strategies and policies, so they can bridge the existing gap. I guess everyone now knows the importance of internet in our daily life, whether on the level of politics, culture, or human rights, or even economically. And getting economic benefits through the internet became one of the country's top priorities while planning their future policies. This shows the importance of integration of the relationship between human rights and acquiring the needing knowledge of receive from them creative ideas in the fields of the internet governance that contribute in diffusing human rights culture in general. This also will indicate us to the importance of integrating experts with the grassroots concerned, so we can deal with those gaps professionally and with lawful human rights policies, and we would not fall in populism when dealing with solving our crises, especially regarding internet governance and human rights. Well, regarding strategies or policies that we can use to increase the public participation through internet. We need concoctive policies initially directed to the public to know and understand the human rights and internet governance, advances policies for experts and officials and governments. We need to reform policies on the level of the constitution and law that including maintaining the users' rights concerning regulatory issues at the level of freedom of opinion, access to information, as well as fair distribution or disseminating to the internet services. I guess this kind of policy that should the civil society and the internet governance stakeholders put it in front of their eyes, where while they discussing the internet governance strategies and policies in the MENA regions in the upcoming period.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Amran. I have another question to Wafa Ben Hassan as well, from Wafa Dahmani, who is works in the ATI, and she is saying like it's true that there are many issues with we are going back to the issue of IDBL again, such as the encrypted data and who has the access on this data. But I think she's saying, Wafa Dahmani thinks that we need not only to advocate against this bill, but against all concerns in this bill, all concerned parties, she means, in this bill, and also give some resolution and alternatives. For example, we should ask for a third party, a regulator who should have access to this data and control the type of data inserted. So this is like a comment to Wafa Ben Hassan narrative on the IG card. So what do you think of the suggestion of Wafa Dahmani to include the neutral third parties in the policy discussion surrounding the IGBL, for example?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. This is something that hasn't been included in the law at all. So it's something that could be considered, but I think the law should be changed because it already has a lot of problems with it first, and then we can suggest some proactive steps. But I'm really sorry, you all. I actually had a meeting at 3 p.m., so I have to bounce off.
Good.
But I'm really glad
right.
I participated.
No problem.
With my colleagues, and I'm looking forward to keeping in touch with all of you.
It was great to have you with us, Wafa. Thank you very much.
Likewise. Have a lovely day. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I would ask the final question to our fantastic guests, and I will begin with Riyadh and ask you the question of what are the online and offline policies. So we'll go from online to the offline world. So what are the online and offline policies that you think should be endorsed and implemented in the MENA context to translate civil society action or activism into a real multi-stakeholder tangible outcomes in your local country or in your local context?
It's a very general question, but I think for us, like it very differs, I guess. I can't speak on behalf of the whole MENA region, but in Oman, we actually need to reform our civil associations law, and it's the law that is used to allow groups to establish NGOs. Our law is very old and it's quite restrictive, and I think that would, if we had a new civil societies law, that would enable a more effective participation by members of the public in the decision-making process for offline policies and online policies.
That's good. So the same question goes to Mohamed from Iraq. How do you think that the online activism that exists in the web, on the internet in Iraq, should be translated offline, and how can we be successful in building a multi-stakeholder intergovernmental discussion in your local context in 1 minute or two?
From my own perspective and my own what I experienced in the past years and the activist as an activist in this field, Iraq needs to have something like the summits that we had in Tunisia a couple of last month. So we have built a platform that hosts the government and host the civil society and the NGOs that they are interested and specialized in internet, and as well as the public people, so the society. So when we bring all of these sectors into one platform, and they can discuss and they can explore and share how they are what their thoughts, what's their methodologies, or what is the policies they are planning to have. This platform will bridge the gap that we have now in miscommunication between people and the government, and will help a lot in explain how the internet is important as a key player in build human rights and to revolve the human rights in Iraq again, especially after this 3 years of war in multi cities in Iraq. So we need this, let's call it chit chat session between government and NGOs and community society, public society.
Yeah, very good perspective, Mohamed. And I will try to ask Mr. Omran and get from your experience, how can we translate the online organizing movement or advocacy processes that we have to an offline committed group of people who can participate in the policy process and advocates for the implementation of more inclusive and transparent internet governance laws from your experience?
Well, Hamza, I will try here to present the needed outcomes from human rights perspective for the MENA network. I guess the most important outcomes are that our communities enjoy and educate for promoting a democracy that based on integrating and comprehensive human rights principle. And that is with the cooperation and collaboration with the various parties concerning or local on grassroots and active stakeholder or active parties. I guess also we need to contribute, this network also need to contributing in laws and regulation related to the human rights and internet governance in positively and in effective way in our MENA region. Also, we need to activate the convention of the internet users, international conventions for the internet users, and make the people know it in effective way. Our outcomes must also include standards or indicators that sets through the international companies, set deals between them and governments, and some of them is dictatorship governments, and sell to them this kind of softwares that inspiring and hearing, and they use it very bad way in spying on and attacking the political opposition and human rights activists. In the same time, on the same time, we need to work with different stakeholders in promoting human rights principle and internet governance. If we achieve this, we would grant a future and a new generation that work on respecting human rights and developing the internet governance in a way that guarantees the balance between respecting human rights and working on culture and economical development.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Omran. I think with that, I think with that positive note, I think I should thank you guys for joining the hangout today, and thank as well Wafa, who couldn't continue the hangout because she had a commitment. And thank you very much for coming. This hangout was really great and really good and really rich with your different perspectives. And I hope that you will continue the discussion and the debate around how to organize online advocacy movements and how that organization can be more effective when it comes to advocating for better internet governance policies in your local context. And we need more cooperation as well between different countries. And I hope that you will keep the fight and you will kind of join our activities and share with us constantly your knowledge and perspectives on the on the internet governance topic. Thanks for Muhammad Amran for joining us from Dam Center from Tunisia. Thanks for Muhammad as well, who passionately joined us from Iraq, and as well for Riyad al-Balushi, who came with his knowledge on the field. And thank you very much, guys, and thanks for Wafa as well. And I hope we will produce a summary to share it with you and with the community as well. So I wish you a great day, and thanks again for your engagement and passion for the topic. See you guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Hamza. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hamza, that you give me the honor to participate in this dialogue.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.